Hi guys, this is Daryl and welcome back to Sci-Fi Odyssey. Today we're asking, is originality in sci-fi dead? So why am I asking this question? A number of reasons. One is that I hear this Mark Twain quote, or some version of it, crop up sometimes in sci-fi conversations. There is no such thing as a new idea. It is impossible. We simply take a lot of old ideas and put them into a sort of mental kaleidoscope. Another is that I have to confess my experiences of certain sci-fi media at the moment have been less than stellar, with the exception of Denis Villeneuve's Dune, which I pretty much think is perfect. Sci-fi movies of late, at least the ones that seem to have a big budget, have been derivative and rife with cliches. Then there are the new books set to be published this year. In my Smash or Pass video, it became clear that there were common ideas running through many of the stories in terms of concepts and themes. Not necessarily a bad thing, but in terms of fresh ideas, there wasn't much to choose from, at what I could tell from the blurbs anyway. And then there's all the TV reboots. We've reportedly got new Battlestar Galactica on the way and an Alien TV show on the horizon. Don't get me wrong, these could be great. But where are the new shows dealing with new ideas and fresh concepts? So this is why I thought it's time to really get under the skin of this question. Is originality in sci-fi dead? Can anything new ever be created, or are we just regurgitating old ideas? And even if we are, is that bad, or does something new inevitably come out of this? I also threw this question out to you, which you kindly answered very enthusiastically, and I'll be revealing the results of the poll and your comments later in the video. Before we put the current state of sci-fi under the microscope, let's briefly touch on why originality has been and should be a cornerstone of sci-fi. To conceive of worlds unexplored, technologies unconceived, and futures unwritten is to engage in an act of creative rebellion against the status quo. It's a declaration that beyond the limits of our reality lies an infinite playground for the imagination. From the earliest tales of Jules Verne and H.G. Wells, science fiction has been the literary embodiment of what if. What if we could travel through time? What if we met beings from another world? What if our inventions became sentient? Each question is a seed from which these sci-fi tales were grown. Originality in sci-fi is more than just novelty or something that entertains us. It's a mirror held up to our own world, reflecting not just what is or what was, but what could be. It transforms our deepest fears and our highest hopes into stories that resonate with the human experience. Through the alien and the otherworldly, we explore the very heart of humanity. The history of science fiction is rich with originality and innovation, a genre defined by its exploration of the unknown and the imaginative. The origins of sci-fi can be traced back to works like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, often considered the first science fiction novel, exploring the creation of life through scientific means. H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds asked how the world would react in the face of an alien invasion. The mid-20th century witnessed an explosion of original sci-fi ideas. Isaac Asimov's Foundation series explored the fall of a galactic empire and the science of psychohistory. Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 imagined a dystopian future where books are outlawed and firemen burn any found. The 1960s and 70s, known as the New Wave era, saw sci-fi become more experimental. Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which inspired Blade Runner, delved into themes of identity and reality. Ursula Le Guin's The Left Hand of Darkness challenged traditional gender roles and sexuality. But sci-fi originality is not limited to literature. Star Trek and Star Wars revolutionized sci-fi in visual media, introducing vast, detailed universes and advanced technologies. Throughout its history, sci-fi has been a fertile ground for originality, consistently pushing the boundaries of what's possible in both thought and technology, making it a cornerstone of the genre. Has this era come to an end? Have we used up all the ideas? Are we just rehashing what has come before in an attempt to make a quick buck without any care for the founding tenets of what makes sci-fi truly great? Let's unpack some recent offerings from film, TV and literature that, while potentially entertaining, might provoke a sense of déjà vu. Rebel Moon and The Creator serve as prime recent examples where big budget visuals are not always matched by equally inventive storytelling. At least in my view, I'm fully aware this can be very subjective. These movies, despite their sleek production values, have been critiqued for leaning heavily on the archetypal chosen one and mad scientist narratives. Moonfall brought to our screens yet another global disaster scenario, yet this time featuring the moon. Critics have been quick to lump it together with the likes of Deep Impact and Armageddon, suggesting a formulaic approach to cosmic calamity. 65 visits the well-trodden path of the lone astronaut marooned on an alien world. From Robinson Crusoe on Mars to The Martian, the solitude of space and the struggle for survival are familiar motifs that 65 does little to innovate on. In TV, the explosion of Star Wars TV shows can make it feel like the universe is feeding on its own narrative carcass, repackaging the familiar conflict of Empire versus Rebels in various guises rather than charting new territory. Invasion approaches the alien invasion storyline with a procedural lens, reminiscent of War of the Worlds and Independence Day, but falls short of offering a fresh perspective on the global impact of extraterrestrial incursion. For All Mankind, while praised for its character development and alternate history angle, dances around the edges of classic space race narratives without significantly pushing the envelope. In books, The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi, while a riveting read, navigates an empire facing decline, a concept that has been a pillar in the space opera genre since the likes of Foundation. The Power by Naomi Alderman presents a gender politics dystopia that resonates with the thematic elements of The Handmaid's Tale, though it does inject a unique speculative twist. And Ready Player One embodies the use of nostalgic references and virtual reality, treading the line between homage to classic pop culture and dystopian cyberpunk tropes. Then we have the reboots. In movies, Dune stands as a paradigm of a reboot done right. Denis Villeneuve's rendition breathed new life into Frank Herbert's universe with stunning visuals and a deeper exploration of the novel's ecological and political themes, offering a fresh take on the source material. The Matrix Revolutions strove to resurrect the philosophical and virtual reality wonder that the original trilogy ignited. While some view it as a nostalgic trip, others see it as an unnecessary addition that struggled to recapture the innovative spark of its predecessors. In TV shows, the upcoming Dune shows and Battlestar Galactica reboot are indicative of a larger trend where beloved properties are updated with modern sensibilities. The 2004 Battlestar Galactica, a reboot in itself, was praised for its gritty realism and political allegory, setting a high bar for what reboots can aspire to. The rumoured new Alien TV show and Foundation series represent ambitious undertakings to expand upon the universes established in film and literature. Whether they provide novel insights or simply retread old ground remains a topic of debate. The various Star Trek series exemplify how a franchise can continually reinvent itself, but ironically not always in ways fans like, moving too far away from original concepts that captured fans' hearts and imaginations. And these are just a few. Let me just take a moment to say something here because I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm not saying tropes and reboots are bad. I love a good trope done well, and there are many of these examples I've just given that I have enjoyed reading and watching. In being entertaining, they have inherent value. An example of this is The Orville. I thoroughly enjoy this show, but its very premise is derivative of classic Star Trek, but with more humour. It deals with many tried and tested sci-fi tropes, but it also has some unique stories to tell. Yet the question lingers, are they all merely shadows of what came before? Beyond commercial interests, do they serve a higher creative purpose? Reboots and revivals often walk a tightrope between homage and innovation. When they succeed, they do so by respecting the essence of the original and building upon it, deepening the complexity of the worlds and further exploring new themes. When they falter, I find it's typically because they've either leaned too heavily on nostalgia without sufficient innovation, giving us a load of member berries and leaving audiences with a sense of familiarity rather than wonder, or they've failed to capture the essence of why fans fell in love with the franchise to begin with. It's a challenge, and I'll be the first to admit, as fans of genre, we can be pretty tough customers to please. But despite the reboots and rehashes, there are some very unique sci-fi stories being told. Let's look at some that for me still feel fresh. In TV, C envisions a world where humanity has lost the sense of sight, and society has had to find new ways to interact, build, live, and survive. This premise challenges traditional perceptions and creates a unique post-apocalyptic narrative. Severance slices into the genre with a sharp contemporary edge, presenting a world where the separation of work and personal life is taken literally. This darkly satirical take on corporate culture explores themes of identity, memory, and autonomy. Raised by Wolves, with Ridley Scott at the helm, contemplates the nature of humanity through the eyes of androids tasked with raising human children on a remote planet, a fresh take on the creation and evolution of society. And Tales from the Loop takes inspiration from Simon Stuhlenhag's narrative art to weave stories that blend the mundane with the otherworldly, focusing on human connections amidst the backdrop of a mysterious machine that alters reality. In movies, Tenet, directed by Christopher Nolan, plays with the fabric of time itself through the concept of time inversion, delivering a narrative that is both a spy thriller and a mind-bending exploration of causality and temporal paradoxes. While I wasn't the biggest fan of this film, the premise was unique. The Platform is a Spanish film that stands out for its allegorical depiction of society and class warfare within the confines of its vertical prison. The movie's stark and original presentation of social stratification leaves a lingering impact. An Arrival takes the alien contact trope and infuses it with linguistic and philosophical depth, examining how language shapes thought and reality, and how communication might bridge worlds both literally and metaphorically. In literature, The Three-Body Problem by Liu Cixin stretches the canvas of hard sci-fi with the story that spans cultures, dimensions, and even alien societies, all woven into the historical fabric of the Cultural Revolution. Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro explores themes of love, morality, and what it means to be human through the eyes of Clara, an artificial friend with exceptional observational qualities. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir returns us to the realm of space survival, but with a twist, combining the threat of global catastrophe with a tale of interstellar camaraderie and scientific discovery. And Children of Time is a novel that takes a long view on the evolution of intelligence and civilization, following the rise of a society of spiders uplifted by human technology, challenging our anthropocentric views of culture and progress. But even with these, you can argue that they still lean on several familiar tropes, whether that's the traditional space opera, environmental catastrophe, AI, alien invasion, time travel, or the unintended consequences of new technology. I guess the difference is that they develop them in new and inventive ways that push us to think, reconsider, and ultimately ask that golden question, what if? So is that just as important as creating something completely new? Personally, I think so. Other factors at play are the various industries that drive sci-fi as they weigh up market demand and inherent risks. General audiences can often gravitate toward the familiar, seeking the comfort of established worlds and narratives. This creates a strong market for sequels, reboots, and franchises that promise a known quantity, which in turn encourages studios and publishers to invest in these, quote, safer bets. The success of a well-known title can be easier to predict, with built-in fan bases and brand recognition, assuming they do it right. However, this risk aversion comes with a cost. While more derivative works can be profitable, they can also lead to market saturation and fatigue. See anything by Marvel in the last few years. There is a segment of the audience, and indeed creators, who yearn for the new, the unexplored, and the innovative. This desire for freshness can lead to breakout successes that redefine genres and capture the cultural zeitgeist in unexpected ways. Independent creators also have a part to play. They often serve as the vanguard of originality within the genre. Unbound by the constraints of major studios or traditional publishing houses, these mavericks have the freedom to explore unconventional ideas and push the boundaries of what sci-fi can be. In filmmaking, independent directors and producers utilize new platforms and technologies to create and distribute content that defies the typical Hollywood blueprint. Crowdfunding, Digital distribution and the democratization of filmmaking tools have empowered indie filmmakers to bring their unique visions to life and reach audiences directly, bypassing traditional gatekeepers. Personally, I'd like to see more initiatives that could help to support the creators who will lead in sci-fi innovation. Things like publishing outlets that exist solely to spotlight avant-garde science fiction, greater access to grants and crowdfunding campaigns, as well as mentorship programs and awards based solely on originality. But I want to know what you think. Let's look at the results of the poll I asked you and some of your comments. 14% of the voters believe originality in sci-fi is dead. This minority might perceive the genre as having reached a saturation point where new ideas are rare. A giant 63%, however, disagreed, suggesting a majority still find fresh and innovative content in sci-fi. This could also imply that while certain themes are recurrent, their execution or interpretation remains original. 23% find the issue complex, seeing originality in sci-fi as neither completely extinct or abundantly prevalent. Some of you differentiate between mediums like literature, TV and film, suggesting that originality might be more prevalent in certain forms, specifically like literature, than others. Some reflect on the genre's evolution, comparing current works to classic ones like Foundation or Dune. Some believe newer works have even surpassed these classics in terms of originality. A notable point is the impact of the publishing industry's focus on bestsellers and the decline of the mid-list, which might limit exposure to original works. Different sci-fi subgenres like space operas are mentioned, with suggestions that some might be more prone to originality than others. Readers' loyalty to certain authors or reluctance to explore new ones affects perceptions of originality, and recent technological advancements and world events are seen as catalysts for new sci-fi themes and narratives. Diversity in authors was also highlighted for contributing to a wider range of perspectives and stories in sci-fi. And the blurring line between rapidly advancing real-world technology and sci-fi concepts is a topic of debate, affecting perceptions of originality. Overall, while opinions vary, most of you think originality in sci-fi is not dead, though it faces challenges due to market forces, evolving technology, and changing consumer tastes. While some express concerns about clichés and repetitive themes, there is a significant sense of optimism about the genre's potential for originality. What do I think? Like most of you seem to be, I sit on the side of optimism for the most part. I think sci-fi is a dynamic genre capable of reinventing and exploring new ideas. Familiar tropes such as space exploration, time travel and dystopian societies are being revisited, but with new lenses, some newer than others. And this a lot of the time depends on the media. I think it's safe to say a fan of sci-fi books will have a very different experience to a fan who only watches movies or TV shows. And a lot of this divergence comes down to the industries that create them, choosing well-worn tropes over fresher ideas that can be riskier. I personally don't just read or watch sci-fi to be entertained. I also want it to blow my mind. I want it to challenge me to think of things, and in ways I didn't before. And when sci-fi does that, that's when I love it most. With the sentiment that everything has been done before, it's easy to succumb to cynicism in an age where sequels and franchises appear to dominate the landscape. But in my opinion, new ideas don't always appear fully formed. They can also evolve over time, through various media and different creators, almost like a living thing, until a small detail of some concept from today will bloom into a fully formed revolutionary idea in a generation's time. It's also not always the idea or the concept itself that has to be original, but the execution, the perspective and the voice. As Twain suggests, the kaleidoscope shifts, and with each turn, new patterns emerge. Innovation in sci-fi isn't always about seeking an entirely uncharted territory, although in my view this remains important. But it can also be about offering a novel approach to familiar ground. Consider how Dune reimagines the hero's journey with an intricate ecological and political framework, or how The Matrix blends philosophy with cyberpunk aesthetics to question reality itself. The challenge for creators and audiences alike is to embrace the familiar as a foundation upon which to build the unprecedented, but also to embrace the different. Maybe take a chance on an unknown author. Read a few indie stories to see what's happening on the edge. Yes, we all love a good sci-fi story that entertains us. I'm no different. A lot can be forgiven in a story that does nothing else but entertain you, but we should also demand of our sci-fi not just escapism, but a vision that dares to innovate, to inspire and to ignite the spark of progress. But what do you think? I'd love to hear your takes in the comments, as well as any recent sci-fi suggestions that you think are really breaking the mould. Until next time, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you're craving an extraordinary journey through realms unexplored, consider delving into universes directly out of my brain by checking out my sci-fi novels Black Milk and Delphine Descends. You can find more details in the description. Thanks for your support.